What are the most epic misuses of labor in history? Hey everyone, welcome to Wisdom and Wonders. Today we are exploring some of the most incredible and sometimes downright shocking misuses of labor in history. Labor has always been crucial for building societies, but as you will see, not all of it has been put to good use. From enormous ancient projects to modern missteps, these examples show how ambition can lead to breathtaking achievements or colossal tragedies. So let's dive in. The Great Wall of China, a towering tall on labor. Our first story is about the Great Wall of China. It's a wonder of the world today, but the human cost of its construction was enormous. Work began as early as the 7th century BCE, and over the centuries, millions of laborers, soldiers, peasants, and even convicts were forced to work on it under brutal conditions. Imagine this, the workers faced extreme heat during the summer and freezing winters, often without adequate food or rest. Up to 1 million people are believed to have died building the wall. According to legend, their bodies were even buried with the structure itself, giving it the chilling nickname the Long Graveyard. And what is even more ironic, despite all that effort, the wall wasn't entirely effective. Invaders like the Mongols still managed to breach it multiple times. So, while the Great Wall of China is an architectural marvel, it's also a sobering reminder of how labor can be exploited, leaving behind a legacy of suffering. Egypt's pyramids, monumental misuse or brilliant engineering. Next, let's move to ancient Egypt and the iconic pyramids. These massive structures symbolize human ingenuity, but they also represent a monumental use of labor for one purpose, to glorify the pharaohs. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, built for Pharaoh Khufu. It took around 20 years and an estimated 1 lakh workers to complete. Some scholars argue that these workers were slaves, while others believe they were seasonal laborers or skilled artisans. Regardless, the toll on women's lives and energy was staggering. These workers hauled enormous limestone blocks, each weighing several tons. They worked in grueling conditions, all to create a tomb for one man. While these structures are inspiring, they didn't benefit society in a tangible way. Instead, they were symbols of the rulers' egos and their obsession with the afterlife. Ultimately, the pyramids showcase how labor, no matter how skillful or coordinated, can sometimes be directed toward goals that serve the few rather than the many. The building of St. Petersburg, Peter the Great's labor gamble. Now let's look at a more modern example, the founding of St. Petersburg, Russia. In the early 1700s, Peter the Great had a vision of creating a European-style city to rival the cultural capitals of the West. The problem, the area he chose was nothing but swampy ground. To make this vision a reality, Peter forced thousands of peasants and prisoners to work on the project. Conditions were harsh, with workers toiling in freezing winters and dealing with swamp-related diseases like malaria. Historians estimate that around 1 lakh laborers died during the construction of St. Petersburg. Despite the enormous loss of life, Peter's ambition led to the creation of a stunning city that became a symbol of Russian power. But the human cost was astronomical. St. Petersburg remains a powerful example of how the misuse of labor for grand ambitions can leave a tragic legacy. The Panama Canal, engineering brilliance, human tragedy. Moving across the globe, we have the Panama Canal, a project that revolutionized global trade but at a staggering human cost. The French initially started building the canal in the 1880s. Their approach, however, was plagued by mismanagement and ignorance of the tropical environment. Over 20,000 workers, many of whom were brought in from the Caribbean, died due to tropical diseases like malaria and yellow fever, along with dangerous working conditions. Eventually, the French abandoned the project, but it was later completed by the United States. Even under American leadership, the canal's construction claimed thousands of lives. While the canal is now a critical piece of global infrastructure, its history is a grim reminder of how rushed and poorly planned projects can have devastating consequences for laborers. The Soviets' White Sea Baltic Canal, Stalin's brutal vision. Under Stalin's rule in the Soviet Union, labor was often exploited for massive, unrealistic projects. One of the most tragic examples is the White Sea Baltic Canal. Stalin wanted a waterway connecting the White Sea and the Baltic Sea, and he demanded it be built quickly and cheaply. To achieve this, the Soviet government used forced labor from the Gulag, essential prisoners. These workers, often political dissenters, were given little food, almost no equipment, and endured freezing conditions. Tens of thousands of workers died from exhaustion, starvation, and disease. And here is the kicker, the canal was so shallow and poorly designed that it was practically useless for major ships. Stalin's vision turned out to be nothing more than a propaganda piece, and the human cost was immeasurable. China's Great Leap Forward, a national tragedy. Finally, let's look at one of the most catastrophic misuses of labor in modern history. This campaign, launched by Chairman Mao Zedong in the late 1950s, aimed to rapidly industrialize China. One of the most infamous aspects was the push for backyard steel production. Millions of farmers were forced to abandon their fields and set up small furnaces in their villages to produce steel. The result, most of the steel they made was low quality and useless. Meanwhile, with so many workers taken away from farming, food production plummeted. This misallocation of labor directly contributed to a famine that killed an estimated 30 million people. The Great Leap Forward is a sobering example of how grand ambitions can go disastrously wrong when they ignore practical realities and the value of human lives. Conclusion: Lessons from history. So, what can we learn from these stories? From the Great Wall of China to the Great Leap Forward, these epic misuses of labor show us the importance of valuing human effort and planning projects responsibly. Labor is one of humanity's greatest resources, and when it's misused, the consequences can be tragic. But by studying these lessons from history, we can strive for a future where work is used to benefit everyone, not just serve the ambitions of a few. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Wisdom and Wonders, and let us know in the comments what you think are the most epic misuses of labor in history. We would love to hear your thoughts. See you next time.